Hi, this is Studenic from the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, reporting for Room Now from the virtual Euler Congress 2021. So today, therapeutic decisions should be made, of course, on the best evidence available, as we all know, and in particularly taking a patient's personal situation into account, and also the patient's opinion in the sense of shared decision-making. Well, JAK inhibitors have amended our therapeutic options in inflammatory arthritis tremendously. So to say they are another milestone in the rheumatologic pharmaceutical timeline, we have, meanwhile, several JAK inhibitors that we can choose from. For instance, tofacitinib, pan-JAK, baricitinib, JAK2, upadacitinib, more JAK1, pevicetinib, and more novel ones, filgotinib, JAK1, or dezaronotinib, JAK3, JAK1 inhibitors. And today, it is my pleasure to have Andreas Kerschbaumer with me, and he's particularly a person in this field because of his he was fellow for the Euler management recommendations for psoriatic arthritis as well as for rheumatoid arthritis, and also for the points to consider for the treatment of immune-mediated inflammatory diseases with JAK inhibitors. And additionally, Andreas, you've made yourself very well familiar with trial designs, and that's what we want to bring here together.
Yes, so thank you for the invitation, Paul. And so trial design, I think, is of particular interest, especially as we have many trials for JAK inhibitors available. We have many head-to-head trials available, and actually we're discussing a lot which JAK may be preferred in which situation, and if any JAK has any better efficacy or safety than the other. And so therefore I think this is the major question now, as long as we don't have real head-to-head studies comparing each JAK next to each other. We need to somehow make sense of the data we have, and this is not that easy.
Yeah. And this is, but practically that uneasy question is something that I would like to point out. So the combination, how can trial designs would better inform the decision making of the choice of drug, in particular considering the use of JAK inhibitors?
So the major problem we see in especially very recent trials is that placebo response rates were really exceeding limits, and we have ACR 20 response rates of 40 to 50%. In certain areas of the world, we have placebo response rate of 60% of ACR 20 response rates. And actually, this is something that has been observed over the past decades, that placebo responses are rising. And actually, this has been looked at in different analyses, looked at why this is so. Geographic differences in geographic regions of recruitment, with differences in healthcare systems and patients' access to healthcare systems may actually change the way they get into the trial, as if patients get into the trial as being methotrexate inadequate responders, but actually have never taken their methotrexate adequately. This may lead to a very high placebo response rate, not due to unknown factors, but due to the patient's response to methotrexate, which they receive as a background therapy during the study after inclusion. I think this is a major driver, maybe a major driver of placebo response rates. And how to improve that? I think one way to do it would be to have a run-in period where patients all patients are required to have a run-in period and take the background therapy through the study environment for, let's say, 8 weeks or 12 weeks. And afterwards, the active control or placebo control is starting.
Yeah, that is actually a good idea. And what you see also in trials is that often methotrexate doses are very different depending on the location where you come from, and how high is practically insufficient. And also during many trials, you would see that methotrexate dosages are below other standards that in other countries are usually employed, at least at the beginning of a drug. Not even thinking about tapering in that regard. What would you say is missing in the trial landscape to better know what of the many JAK inhibitors might be ideal? I mean, we have not even answered actually the question appropriately yet for the several modes of actions in biologic DMARDs, and I pointed now out for JAK inhibitors.
So actually, stating the obvious here is that we need head-to-head trials. We need head-to-head trials comparing different JAKs. Hard to say how long it's going to take to have these. Then I think what may also inform us is I actually had the thought, and actually we're setting non-inferiority margins for when we conduct non-inferiority trials. But superiority of a drug over the other it's not set through margin, which is clinically meaningful, but it's set through statistical superiority. And actually then statistical superiority is questioned afterwards if it's achieved, if it is clinically meaningful. So not only setting non-inferiority margins, but also superiority margins which are clinically meaningful, I think would help us a lot to better interpret head-to-head trials.
You mean at the same instance, so within the same protocol?
Yes, I think this may take, if you take power calculations into account, it may be necessary then to include more patients. But on the other hand, it really keeps you from the whole discussion if a difference is clinically meaningful or not. I'm not sure if this is just an idea I had. I'm not sure if this is if any company is ever going to do that, but I think it would help us in all the discussions to see if we achieve superiority of one drug over the other in one trial and non-inferiority between two drugs in the other trial. If we compare these trials next to each other, if these are somehow comparable, and if one drug is better compared to the other, if one achieves superiority. And statistical superiority. Now, I think this is something which could improve trial designs.
And it makes also the transition of information from research and discussion into clinical practice a bit easier and faster, as I would say.
Right, exactly.
Well, Andreas, thank you very much for commenting on this topic. And thank you all for watching the video. I hope you enjoy or have enjoyed EULAR 2021. Tune into Room Now for more content, and you can also follow me on Twitter via handle Studio.
Thank you for the invitation, Paul.